PopCultureZone.com is an online shop focusing on hot new comics, including exclusive and incentive variants, CGC graded comics, and tons of other inventory, including pop culture toys and other collectibles, all at low and competitive prices. PopCultureZone.com ships all over the US. And if you are buying raw comics, they offer flat rate shipping of only $4.99. That's right, $4.99. Absolute craziness, right? And there's no taxes included, excluding New Jersey. Pop Culture Zone is also on eBay, where they hold a 100% positive feedback rating with over 8,000 completed transactions for this year alone. Make sure to check out the link to their website below, as well as their eBay link, so be sure to give them a follow there as well.
What we're going to do is we're going to look at Cover Price's top 10, not only top 10, but actually their top 20 of the week that they do. We used to do our top 10 segment based on that. We're going to look at these books and we're going to talk about what's being called right now is the James Gunn effect. And I'm going to tell you guys what my personal feelings on this is in terms of an investment standpoint, looking at the market, and maybe give you all, as collectors, investors, speculators, whatever you want to label yourself as, what should I be doing about this? What should I be doing about this James Gunn effect that is in full effect right now? A lot to be said. And Jeff, I wanted to talk about this with you here to get your opinion live. And of course, we got the chat here that can chime in too.
It's an exciting time because it's been kind of dead in the spec market, for a variety of reasons. And I think we're going to start seeing an acceleration within the spec market. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, with all of these announcements. And just by this top 10 list alone, that was last week right after the announcements, it's awesome. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, especially with DC, and there's been the conversation of, DC not having that spec value. And what about, I always say, DC as Marvel, there's an intrinsic value in comic books. And this is what I want to really look at today. We're going to talk about this intrinsic value and what that means for this James Gunn effect that we're happening right now. So yeah, let's look at this top 10 list. Let's bring up the image.
Yep. Let's do it.
So right here was your top 10 books, folks. Now, we're not going to break down every single book. I am going to point out some to you and break down some numbers. But, number one, we got The Authority. We know that, James Gunn announced an Authority property coming. We got the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow and Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow number one. Is that
That's a variant, it looks like.
Cover A in variant, right?
Yeah.
Which is supposedly going to be James Gunn's Supergirl's, what it's going to be based on. So that's why that's there. This is a fairly new book that came out just over a year ago. We got all the Damian Wayne stuff. We got his cameos, his full, because there's James Gunn announced a Brave and a Bold that's going to focus on Bruce and Damian. Whether he's going to be Robin or not, we don't know. Legends number one, first appearance of, Viola Davis's character, Amanda Waller, that we've already seen. She's obviously sticking in the James Gunn universe with the announcements that he had for her, focusing more on her life. Booster Gold. Oh my! And the funny thing about Booster Gold is, I think it was on the Canon, Jeff, one of our first shows where I made a comment saying, that's like DC doing something on Booster Gold and us spending hundreds of dollars on it. But, oh well, James Gunn announces it. It's happening.
Yeah.
The hundreds of dollars in terms of the book, that is.
And that's a James Gunn character he would have fun with all day.
That is true. That is true. James Gunn could do a good thing with Booster Gold. I will give it that. Weird Tales, the Creature Commandos announcement. So that's why that book's up here. Stormwatch, because of characters being in the Authority. Stormwatch originally was Image, but then DC bought the property under their Wildstorm. Swamp Thing, that's huge. That's kind of in a league of its own, and we know that James Gunn announced the Swamp Thing news, and that's big. But Jeff, all DC here, all DC. So we know when we were doing the top 10, this list is based specifically on trending sales. And it's very indicative of the speculation market. Because if you get a trailer, if you get an option, anything like that, this cover price list usually shows those things moving, right? Let's look at the runners up, which is 11 through 20. Want to bring that image up on screen here?
Absolutely.
Because look at this. All except for number 19, we have 9 more DC books. There's no Marvel book, even in the 10 runners up. This is, I mean, it's impressive for DC. You got All-Star Superman, which supposedly is going to be the reboot that Gunn is doing for his new Superman character. And here's Batman, 657, again, more Damian Wayne, technically his first full appearance, or if you want to call second, whatever. That's not the point of this video. You guys can argue about that somewhere else. Batman and Robin stuff, all of this pertaining to James Gunn. You got that other Stormwatch 37 in there with the first appearance of I forget which Jenny Sparks, who's part of the Authority. So, all right, here's the thing, Jeff. We could be looking at this and be approaching this in a way where it's like, this is what DC needs.
Yeah. I have a feeling there's something else. You got some more to say about that, though.
Nope.
Oh.
No. Yes, I do have nothing more. I do have more to say to it, and it's nope. This is not what DC needs.
Okay.
What you're seeing right here, people, in my humble opinion, is the same thing you've been seeing for the last couple of years when it comes to how much FOMO is out of control, and it's all for the wrong reasons. Okay, what you're seeing right here is the same reason why Dollar Bin first appearance of Frogman jumped up to a $25 book when we figured out that Frogman is going to be in She-Hulk. And what was he in She-Hulk? He was there for 30 seconds, and it was some spoof, and then poof, he's gone. Nobody cares about Frogman anymore. Back to the Dollar Bin you go. Marvel Tales 109 or 108, whatever it is.
I bought a 9.8 for $750. That's not true.
This is all bad. Now, let me give you context. We're going to pull up some numbers here, and we're going to look at this. So look at this. First off, you got you got brand new books like the Superwoman book or Supergirl, Women of Tomorrow, whatever, jumping up to being a $40 book when it was a cover. I mean, you couldn't even sell it for cover price. You go to A1 Comics and they got it in the back issue bins for cover price, and they're selling it for half off at their sale. $40 book just because James Gunn says something. You got these Stormwatch books. Stormwatch 37, Dollar Bin book all day, selling for $60. And that's not just one sale, that's the last 4 sales hitting $60 in a raw copy. People. Actually, there's more than 4. There's some that are for 40, 30, 28, 58, 49. I'm looking at the sales right now. Let's look at this other Stormwatch number 4, which already had a little bit of value. It was about maybe just depending on the grade, anywhere from a $10 to $20 book. This book, the last 2 sales jumped up over the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sales, all over $100, hitting a record high 160 for a book that just a few months ago was selling for $20 in a near mint raw copy. People, this is not what we need. Now, anybody sitting on these books that can sell them right now is obviously happy about it. That goes back to the intrinsic value in comic books. We are forgetting why comic books are worth money in the first place. And here's the thing. We got to compare it to Marvel in the MCU. Remember, let's go back to the Spider-Man trilogy, Raimi's trilogy. People didn't watch a trailer and then go buy books pertaining, oh, Doc Ock is going to be in a Spider-Man movie. Let's go buy a bunch of copies and then go flip them. We came out of those movies loving what we saw on screen, and it brought us back to the comic book shops. We went and saw Spider-Man 3, even though it was a wreck of a movie, but we loved seeing the symbiote on screen, that we went back, because I was one of them. I went back to the comic book shop and I bought 2 copies because I just couldn't believe seeing my childhood on screen like that. One of my favorite villains and favorite story arcs of the Black Suit. When Iron Man came out, we fell in love with Iron Man, not because we saw a trailer, but because we watched Robert Downey Jr. bring that character to life. We watched Avengers and got goosebumps through that 2.5-hour-long movie, and we saw Thanos at the end sitting on his throne. And we're like, whoa! And we went back and bought Thanos books because we couldn't believe that our childhood and these characters were shown up on screen. And when we watched Age of Ultron, and at the end, we see him open that up to the gauntlet and say, fine, I'll do it myself. And he puts that gauntlet on. I went out and bought 2 sets of the Infinity Gauntlet, not because I'm speculating on these, but because, God damn it, that was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen, to see one of the coolest villains in the coolest story arcs of my childhood show up on screen in a post-credit scene that just left me in tears like a little boy. We saw Guardians Volume 1, and I hardly knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy were myself. I knew that they were some weird freaking characters. I went and started buying the late 80s, early 90s run.
Great run.
We have lost our identity in terms of why we do what we do. And here's what makes it problematic for James Gunn in this new DCU. We have not seen one movie. We have not came out of a movie of a DCU universe feeling any of the things that I just told you guys that would want us to embrace these characters. Can that happen? Absolutely. And if it does, some of these books might hold their value of what they're selling right now. Doubt it. Swamp Thing, it's already a key book. We could come out of the theater loving that Swamp Thing, and that book can increase. But let's look back at these things. Most of these are modern books. Some of them are Copper Age, which still a lot of collectors consider modern, but it's copper. The volatility in where these books are sitting right now is based on FOMO, pure and simple. Because we have programmed ourselves right now as whatever, I'm just going to say as buyers of comics. I'm not going to say collector, flipper, speculator. As buyers of comics, we have brainwashed ourselves to believe that comic books are valuable simply because there's a trailer, simply because there's a movie, simply because some guy named James Gunn now wants to make an announcement of all these things that are coming out. Now, let me talk a little bit about James Gunn and this new DCU. And Jeff, we've talked about this on our show. We both love what James Gunn has done for a lot of the things that he's worked on. And we are both very optimistic in what he can do in this role that he's in with DC. We do both believe that he carries a nurtured soil, so to say, that was not there with Warner Brothers to begin with. That nurtured soil means...
Well said, yes.
Yeah, he cares about the properties. He cares about the seeds that he plants. He's invested in it, not monetarily or not, for monetary reasons. He's invested in it because he cares about the seeds that he's planting into his soil. That's a positive thing. But I'm going to tell you right now, Jeff, they are still 10 years into the DCEU and having this reset. What are they doing? What are they still trying to do?
They're resetting again. Like it's
no, but why? What are they comparing it to?
What they're comparing it to the MCU.
To the MCU. They are still looking to the MCU to say, what can we do? How do we do this right? And I'm going to tell you, Jeff, this is what worries me. It still ain't doing what they're doing. James Gunn came out and announced some really crazy stuff. Now, keep in mind, he doesn't need to do exactly what the MCU does to be successful. And maybe that'll work out. But I am very concerned about them just doing what they've been doing. How is it all going to connect? He's got a lot, the Creature Commandos, the Authority, where once again, what did Marvel do? Let's start slow.
Yeah.
One character at a time. And then we have a bit. He's got teams over here. We're not only going to make the animated connect, but we're going to make the video games connect. I really think that James Gunn is still taking way too much on to make a connective universe work. But he's got a lot of pressure because Warner Brothers needs money. We need properties. We need to push them out. We can't do a one film every 2 years thing like Marvel did starting out. So,
yeah.
Okay, I don't know. But when you take that into consideration, and when you take the simple volatility of these comic books selling for what they're selling right now, just because James Gunn announced it, this can implode and explode very quick and very fast. And that is my big concern.
Okay, I want to respectfully disagree with you.
With everything or parts?
You be the judge of that, and also the audience. But for better or for worse, the MCU has changed collecting as well. Okay?
Yes.
It has changed collecting. And here we are right now with the DCU starting.
Yep.
And James Gunn is building a foundation. What he first announced is the foundation he is building with some awesome properties, right?
Yep.
Some awesome properties. And for better or for worse, people went out knocking over grandmas and all this and kicking the dog out of the way, getting in the store to get Supergirl, what's the
Woman of Tomorrow,
Woman of Tomorrow. And yes, I understand what you're saying. They're trying to flip it. But I'll tell you what, out of all of those products, I'm excited to read that story because I didn't know anything about it. It came out 2 years ago, and I love DC. Yeah. Marvel has my heart, but I've had quite memorable moments with DC, right? I remember back in the day, John Byrne's Superman sucked me into that whole DC world. I've told you that's one of my favorite artists, where I first realized that artists have their own different styles and things like that. And it's cool to see how all of them interpret each character. That meant a lot to me. Jim Aparo opened the world up for Batman. That was the day, and he has the famous, when Robin died, in his arms, and, that image right there. Those things are still within me, and I want to see them translated onto the screen, which James Gunn is looking to do. Booster Gold. You know how many times people want to see Booster Gold? That was already a key book. It's probably, at least 10, 20% boost, no pun intended, a boost in fair market value. But I think this is a good thing, actually. It's getting people out there. And I know some people are scrambling for monetary means, but people are also scrambling because they want to read this stuff. And I'm going to read Woman of Tomorrow. That's top of my list of the new things to read. I do collect a few DC. I haven't been on top of my reading in a while, but I'm excited for this stuff. I am genuinely excited, and I think that's a good thing. And before your rebuttal, I'll credit to Gunn for really encouraging people to read comics, though. He's on the film side. It doesn't have to do it, but it helps bolster readership of the source material and attract new readers. And as you'll see on the trailer, they show the original source material. Hey, go check out these graphic novels or floppies or whatever. So I'm excited for it in general. So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. We're not disagreeing. Everything you said, I actually agree with. And that's what it should be doing. But here's some factors that we need to add context to everything you just said. There's a couple of things. One, when we look at these properties and we want to go buy the books because now we're interested in reading the story, maybe we want to read the story before the movie comes out. There is something called a natural flow of market. Natural, and I'm looking at Booster Gold right now.
This is where you have your advantage because you have your degree in economics. Or
this book in a near mint raw copy was maybe a $50 book. And this is going into the COVID market coming out of 2021.
For what book?
Booster Gold.
Okay, yeah.
You know what it's selling for right now?
What?
Well, there was a $126 sale, $140 sale, and then a $252 sale.
Jesus. Are those slabbed or no? Not slabbed.
Raw. Okay. Jeff, this is what I'm telling you. It's not people like you or me that want to buy it to read it or want to buy it because we're simply excited that are driving these prices up like this. It's because that's not a natural progression of supply and demand. It's not. These are modern books mostly that we're talking about too. And remember, I've talked about this on the show before where we bottleneck supply and demand because these are books. And I looked at it. A lot of these books, there's none of them on the census. None of them have been graded for a lot of the books. Or if they are, there's very few because nobody cared about them.
Yeah.
A lot of them are dollar books. Some of them have $5, $10 books. And what's happening now is a bottleneck because you get people that are jumping on these, and there might only be a few on eBay right when the announcements hits. And what do? FOMO. And they bid a $40, $50 book up to $252. It's freaking nuts. So that is my, not even a rebuttal to what you're saying. It's context to saying, I'm there with you. This is how we can naturally, and I'm not saying that those things that me and you love about the comics and the movies, that would drive the value of these books up, but not to this extent, right? This is volatile, and any market, stock market, housing market, comic market, any market that sees increases like this, it's
unhealthy.
Go ahead.
Okay, but again, we can't get away from what it is now. And this is the MCU effect, okay?
This
is the MCU effect. For better or for worse, that's what it is. However, I have no doubt that $200 Booster Gold book is going to dip way down because people are going to start flooding the market with their books, and nobody's going to be paying $200 for it. And it's going to slowly ramp back up. That's what it does. So we always have to account for the MCU effect, which hopefully is also going to be the DCU effect. I think it's fun. I think these characters are well deserving of all of this excitement. I mean, I see everybody wanting to see Lobo. I would love to see Lobo. Let's hope. I mean, who knows? Jason Momoa is going to play Aquaman and Lobo, but he was born to play Lobo. Let's be honest with that. So I don't know, man. It's an exciting time, but I hear what you're saying. It's not healthy, maybe to a degree, but on the flip side, it brings so much attention to these books, and I think it's good. I think in the long run, it is healthy, to be honest with you.
Well, here's the thing. You got a couple things to that. When you say that's going to dip back down and go back up, then not every book follows that trend because, especially right now, because you got to understand, and this is where the market is slowed down because of the economy. FOMO hasn't slowed down.
Yep.
Because again, you could go back to any movie, any show, any option, and FOMO is out of control still, even more than it was even at the beginning of the COVID boom. That's what worries me too. And you got to consider this as well.
That's
And
not
I'm
a good
glad
mix. You're right.
I'm glad that you brought up the MCU effect. The MCU started this. Well, how we respond to the MCU started it. We now see that even if a property is successful, even in the MCU that is the gold standard, we FOMO out so much that even if the property is successful and the character is well loved and the character stays around, the books will trend back down.
But we anticipate that.
And again, it's even more volatile with these because they're mostly modern books. So when you pull so far away from the fact that comic books have an intrinsic value, they're inherently valuable because of all these other reasons, and we're only focused on this, I don't know. So James Gunn has a lot to prove in making these properties entertaining and fulfilling and on that MCU level to where we're coming out of them loving these characters. But even that isn't enough to sustain the extreme volatility of our reactionary behavior when it comes to the FOMO in believing that we need to buy books at 5, 10, 20 times what they were selling the day before just because we get an announcement. And yes, we, even with the MCU, because the extreme FOMO with the MCU is probably only about 5 years old, and then it really peaked in the COVID market, right? Before that, it was what I was saying when I started my rant earlier, right? But we have seen books like, I think it dipped off a little now with the economy, but you saw Thanos' first appearance dip down really hard after the Infinity Saga ended, but now it's gone back up and it's at where it was before the Infinity War came out in 2018. So that's a good thing. But what is that? That's an early Bronze Age book that's already a valuable book. It's not a modern book. So I think it's going to be very hard to look 5, 10 years from now at all these modern books and see where a $2 book that's now selling for $50, $60 because of an announcement. Let's see where it's at if we're enjoying James Gunn's movies, properties, films, and let's see if it can even compete with the FOMO market, because that's really what it is at this point.
I'm going to hopefully wrap this up with one question to you. Yes. Is it volatile if you can predict, right? Let's just say, if we had a conversation before the announcement, let's just say, I bet you James Gunn is going to announce Booster Gold.
This character, that character, this character.
Let's just say right? Booster Gold, just for that example. Because I think you and I, after doing this show for almost 3 years now, holy cannoli, 3 years, you and I would have an understanding that this announcement is going to spike that book.
Yep.
And a couple weeks after the announcement, we're going to start, I don't know if it's going to be a hard, downgrade, but it's going to go down.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to go down until we get announcement of casting.
Yep.
Then down, trailer. Then down, and movie release, and then down back to the sequel. So is it volatile if we can predict those things?
Yeah, because it doesn't change what volatile means. Are we playing the market? If we can predict, and I've always said this. I said this about the MCU. Guys, Frogman, literally, go out there and buy every first appearance of any character ever created. Because they're probably going to show up in the MCU. And if you're willing to wait on it, and as soon as we get an announcement, go sell it, because the FOMO, people aren't learning from the FOMO. Jeff, yes, it's volatile because we're not talking about what we can predict. We're talking about what the market is doing. A market that does this is extremely volatile, just like penny stocks. If you can invest in penny stocks and you're a day trader, you can profit off of the volatility. Now, the way I just worded it, that sounds like a good thing, right? We do this as a living. We can be considered day traders of comic book spec because we do it for a living. We study the market. We look at what's going on with the movies and film, what's being optioned, etc. We know the books. We know the market. We know the books. We know the characters. We could sit here and day trade. We can stack up who we think is going to come, and then we could day trade and we could be living lavishly in all the money we're making. I could have bought 20 copies of Authorities for $1 each and now flipped them for $50 each and have $1,000 in my pocket. And that's how I can make a living. Is that good? That's not a negative thing? Not for me, if that's what I'm doing, but it is an absolute negative thing in terms of the market, because any volatile market, any real investor is going to stay extremely clear from a volatile market. And when real investors steer clear from a volatile market, what does that mean for long-term investments? It means nobody's looking at them. Penny stocks die out. These small companies, either they declare bankruptcy or they sell off to a bigger company and they freaking eliminate, or they what's the word where they eliminate the stock, the shares, dissolve the stock. So I mean, essentially, that's what can happen with these books. But again, some different than others. Swamp Thing, Damian Wayne's first appearance, Artie Keys. Be careful, guys. All I'm saying is that FOMO needs to be put in check. We could still speculate. We could still have fun with the movie hype and the optioning and all this stuff. And I'm glad DC is taking off in a certain way, and I'm hopeful for the future. But there's got to be some type of control and balance in how we are making our decisions within the market.
All right. I mean, I feel like a knowledgeable investor in comic books would not, if you're going to invest in either a Booster Gold first appearance or a Frogman first appearance, you're going to go Booster Gold.
Oh, yeah. Booster Gold's still not Frogman. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not. No.
I don't know. Anyways, we can talk.
The Authority probably is more, because that's a dollar bin book. That's more like a Frogman example.
Okay. Well, the Authority is definitely not. That's going to be an interesting super group. That's going to be I could see it being an R-rated property. You know what I mean? For many reasons. Yeah. All right. Well, that was great breakdown right there. It's great to see the Gunn effect in effect with literally, was that 20 out of 20 right there, Chris? We know it was 10 out of the first 10.
19 out of 20.
What was the one book that wasn't, because we've never seen this after doing the show for 3 years.
Criminal.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Brubaker's indie. Okay. Yeah. I don't remember who's
crazy.
That.
I know. Crazy.
But all right. I'm looking forward to seeing more of the Gunn effect, to be honest with you. I personally am. I know you have mixed feelings, but okay.